Welcome to the new podcast. It is called Breaking the Chains, Healing from Emotional and Physical Abuse. And I am Kelly, and I'm glad you all joined me today. So, um, I think there's a lot of us out there, including myself, who's experienced mental or physical abuse. And I feel like it needs to be discussed more. So today, on my first podcast, I'm just gonna go into what I mainly will be talking about and how you can if if your abuser is showing these characteristics, how you can set up boundaries and how you can get away from your abuser. Please do not stay in an abusive relationship if you are in one. So I believe within every town, county, city, and country, mental or physical abuse is lurking in families, couples, ex husbands or ex wives, or current wives and current husbands. And shockingly, it's some abuse is happening in our churches. When we are victim of physical or mental abuse, we have fractured emotions, low self-esteem issues. Most of us have encountered physical or mental abuse in any relationship. And we start to recognize that the abuser, that their behavior that they are showing isn't normal. Why isn't physical or mental abuse discussed frequently? I think it isn't discussed frequently because I believe a lot of people, um, some including churches, they try to stay off of this subject because some churches do not agree with divorce. However, I am divorced and I believe you should get divorced if you're a victim of physical or mental abuse. You should definitely leave your abuser. Or if you're in a relationship with a physically or mentally abusive person, you should leave that relationship. And sometimes you have to leave when the abuser is at work and pack up all your stuff because you have kids together. Pack up all your kids' stuff and your stuff as much as possible and leave while they're at work. So your kids won't get hurt and so you will not get hurt. And also I believe most of the characteristics that come from abusers, or one of them is a narcissistic behavior. And narcissistic behavior is meaning they're self-centered, they're conceited, vain, arrogance, and they're boasting. Um, if the abuser is showing signs of malignant narcissism, that is meaning that the abuser is using their pardon me, manipulative ways or shows violence to the victim to amplify their own sense of well-being. So next, the abuser will most likely resort to gaslighting to their victim. This is manipulation of the victim for extended period of time. Therefore, this causes the victim to question their perspective or of their reality. Signs of this is usually signs of that if you were a victim and you were getting gaslighting, the signs are that your memory can lead to confusion. You have a loss of self-esteem, not certain of your stability, and a dependency on the perpetrator or the gaslighter. And the third characteristic, most likely, that the abuser will use is the smear campaign. This is constantly used against the victim by their abuser. The abuser will make false allegations to their family, friends, co-workers, or anyone who will listen, while trying to destroy the victim's reputation. Like, they could make up you know, a false allegation that you, as the victim, is um using, you're an alcoholic, yet they don't have any proof of it, or that you're a drug dealer, or that you're a prostitute. These can lead to, these they're just different, lies that the abuser can say to try to use the smear campaign to turn people against the victim. So, and I'll give some more examples of the smear campaign. They could go around saying that you're, if you were married and you're an ex-husband or ex-wife, that they're, um, could say that you're an unfit parent. However, they don't have any proof or evidence that you're an unfit parent. They don't have any evidence of a police record. They don't have any evidence of you using alcohol, that you're an alcoholic, or that you're a drug addict, and things like that. Or they could go around, saying, well, this person, they could, just come up with different lies, say that you are a person that abuses drugs, and they're just lying about it, false allegations, which is also the smear campaign, and yet they still don't have the evidence. They don't have a police record, but they will tell their family members or coworkers or friends that you are a drug addict or drug user, but they don't have. However, that's their smear campaign to try to turn these people against you without any physical evidence. And but I will go more into these characteristics of why these abusers do this and how to set up boundaries. And it just like, I just think it should be talked about more, because there's a lot of us that have are going through or have been through an emotional or physical abusive relationship. And when we go through it, it takes us years of counseling to get back to our normal, I guess I should say normal mentality, uh, because it really destroys our self confidence. It destroys, some of us, it destroys our physical bodies, because it can, because we're so stressed out. It can also create a lot of anxiety because of our abuser is physical, has been physical with us or mental with us, and we have a lot of anxiety of what our abuser is capable of doing to us. Or and if you have kids together, you could be have a lot of anxiety of what they could possibly do to your kid or kids. So you have to, and if you have anxiety, I would highly recommend that you seek professional help. If you can't get a hold of it, seek professional help with a psychiatrist or a therapist. And it's okay if you have to take anxiety medication for that. And also, I would recommend, if your abuser keeps threatening you, to file a restraining order if possible, to make it, that's one of the things you can do to help release some of your anxiety. If you're have so much anxiety that your abuser could show up at your home, or your apartment, or wherever you are located at, and try to harm you, or at anyway, or harm your kids, or because um I hopefully that will not happen to any of you, but I know it has happened to other victims of physical abuse. And also, a lot of people don't talk about mental abuse. I've experienced mental abuse while when I was married. I'm divorced now. Mental abuse to me is just as bad. I mean, as physical abuse, and I know physical abuse is bad. However, uh I'm not lowering physical abuse, and I'm just saying that mental abuse is just as bad as physical abuse. So if you are if you are a victim or have been a victim of mental abuse, um, then you struggle with self esteem. You struggle with anxiety. You struggle with a lot of stuff too, because and most of our abusers, if we're divorced from, we have kids with them, we still have to we still have to have that communication line because we have kids together. And yet our ex husbands or ex wives have to still communicate, and therefore some of them do not stop degrading us, do not stop the mental abuse, or do not stop threatening us physical harm on us. However, we have to set the boundaries with the ex-husband or ex-wife and say, look, I will file a restraining order, or I'm not going to you're not going to degrade me. If you have any issues, regarding our kids that you don't agree with, seek your attorney, because they do not have the right to degrade you, and that the abuser should not be degrading you if you're discussing your kids. They should be just discussing, the kids' schedule and stuff like that. However, if they are degrading you, which I've experienced this, you have to put a boundary. Say, look, I'm not going to, I will not listen to degrading um, comments about what you were saying about me. If you cannot, communicate with me without the degrading comments, then I'm gonna have, you're gonna have to say, look, this is the only thing we need to be discussing is our children and our children's schedule and things like that. Um, just make your boundaries and step firm on them. No matter what they threaten you with, like court or whatever, do not be scared, because you have all the texts. Take pictures of your texts. If you have texts of them threatening you, threatening your life, if they're degrading your character, and they don't have physical proof, like I said earlier, that's just a smear campaign to try to make you look bad. So, but you put up your boundaries, and you don't have to listen to it in text or over the phone or wherever. And I think, like, a lot of our churches, well, not a lot, I say some of our churches should talk more on physical and mental abuse in relationships, because that's why our divorce rates are so high, because we just focus on divorce in some of our churches instead of the abuse itself. Because um, there is physical and there is mental abuses in marriages, and that's why a lot of couples do file for divorce and do get divorced because of physical or mental abuse. And you have every right to divorce your husband or wife if they are physically or mentally abusing you. And I'm divorced, so and I can speak on that I feel like I know that we will still go to heaven even though we're divorced, because we left a abusive relationship. Because in the Bible, Jesus, does state that they should, you know, love, it says, wives, submit to your husbands. However, then it goes on like, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And most of the people don't think about that. But however, I think a lot of couples should love each other with the unconditional love and respect. However, a lot of marriages aren't like that. There is a lot of abuse, mental and physical abuse, and the victim feels trapped because of. And there's some most time, and in my case, it was because of financial, because my well, my husband at the time, didn't want me to work because he wanted that financial hold on me, knowing as long as he kept mentally abusing me, that I couldn't find a place to live. Um, Luckily, praise God that I have, parents that was not concerned, you know, with me and my child living with them. After I left the abusive relationship, um, you can't live with someone who will not seek help. When you beg your partner, or you say your mother, or a family member, a husband, a wife, a brother, a father, whoever that's abusing you, if you beg them to get help and they will not get help, then you can't force that person to get help. However, if it's like to the point where you feel scared for your life, or your physical and mental health is really at risk, which most time it is in a physical or mental abusive relationship, it's time to leave the relationship. And here's the thing that I did, because I knew that husband at the time, um, my husband at the time had a very, he has a rage problem. So I knew the best time for me to leave with our child was when he was at work. So I packed up all our stuff, as much as I could get in my little Toyota Corolla, and I packed it all down with my toddler in the back in the car seat. And I rolled, headed to my parents' house. And that's the best thing to do in a situation like that, in my opinion, is to leave if this person it has a violent temper, or shows any kind of violence, or even, if you had enough, or the mental break, mental abuse, then the best time is to leave, especially, when kids are involved. I believe it's best to leave while the abuser is at work. Okay, I want to go more in depth too with the characteristics that I said most abusers you know, most abusers have a narcissistic behavior, meaning that they are self-centered. And I've said this, and I started out with this, but I want to go more in depth with it. They're self-centered, they're conceited, they're arrogant, they're boasting. And when if they're really filled with, like, they're really, it's called malignant narcissism. This means the abuser is, like, really using their manipulative ways to show violence to the victim. And it only amplifies as time goes on. But it gives a, I guess it makes the abuser makes them more boastful when they're acting so narcissistic, meaning when a person abuser is narcissistic, or any person could be narcissistic, meaning they only care about themselves. They don't care about anyone else. And they don't care about, what other people think. They're so vain, they're boasting about all their accomplishments in life, and they're not humble. Mainly they're not humble, in my opinion, because I know a lot of narcissistic, they show people that have narcissistic traits, uh, they are not humble. They have no sense of showing, like, any care, they don't have any empathy for anyone else. They only care about themselves. Okay, say a narcissistic person and a regular person were in a car wreck, for instance. A NARS and the car wreck was pretty bad. So I believe the narcissistic person, if the narcissistic person was not hurt, the narcissistic person would get out of the vehicle, not check on the passenger, because the narcissistic person would not be concerned about the passenger, even if the passenger was like one of their loved ones or family members. Or they would like tell the cops, well, it was just a bad wreck, and thank God I'm not hurt, like that. They only care about themselves. They show no humility to anyone else or no empathy at all. And to me, I've never shown that kind of behavior in my life. I've always been a very humble person. And I really, when I was married to this person, because this person has still today shows narcissistic behavior. I think it's too how a person is, raised. Like, are they raised, self-centered, believing it's okay to only care about themselves? If they always got what they wanted growing up, no one showed them how to respect other people's opinions or beliefs. They thought they were the only ones important in life. Then I totally believe that a narcissistic person, um would that's the behavior of a narcissistic person. Okay. Okay. I got a question that I would like to answer. The question is, how do I get my ex to stop harassing me? That's a very good question. And I would like more detail about that. Like, is this a ex-husband, ex-wife, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend? Do they have kids together? And then maybe I can. Okay, so ex-husband. So how do you get an ex-husband to stop harassing you? Sometimes you actually have to file a restraining order, and if you have kids, you can do that. Because um, they will come to your place of worship, your church, with your kid, and they will tailgate you, and they will burn your phone up in texts and calls, and they will threaten to kill you. I have filed a restraining order before. I totally believe you need to file a restraining order when a ex-husband or ex-wife or ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend is threatening you in any way, any shape, any form. And you can show that to your local sheriff's department or police department and county or city, wherever you are living. You can show that, and the text or the voice recordings. Let them hear the voice recordings. File the restraining order. Then you will go to court, before the judge. Um, you don't have to have an attorney neither. When you file a restraining order, you will not need an attorney to file a restraining order unless you already have an attorney. You can bring your attorney, but most time you don't need an attorney if your divorce is final. But however, if you're still battling like custody issues or anything, you can bring your attorney if you would like. Um, okay, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the gaslighting. This is another characteristic that the abuser uses, and I talked about it earlier. Gaslighting usually, is what is mental manipulation that they use on their victim for an extended period of time. Like, the things that they are doing, the abuser are doing, they will throw it back and say, um, like, you're doing this, like you're the one that's the drug addict, when they're actually the drug addict. Or if they're an alcoholic, they say, oh, you're an alcoholic, even though they don't have proof of it or evidence. they'll say you're doing this or you're an unfit parent when actually, it could be vice versa, or however you want to say it, is what I'm trying to say. The things usually that they are doing, the abuser's doing, will the abuser will throw it at their victim, and that's called gaslighting. They will say, make false allegations of this is what you're doing, and how can you do this to me, and how can you do this to our kids, trying to make you feel bad when you shouldn't feel bad because you're the victim, they're the abuser, and they should be held accountable for their actions. And the third characteristic that I want to go more into detail about also is the smear campaign, which I talked a little about that. Also, is when the abuser makes false allegations, also, but they go a little further with it. They'll go to their pastor, they'll go to their deacons, they'll go to family, they'll go to friends, they'll go to their coworkers, and they might even go to your family, your friends, or your coworkers, spreading lies about you, trying to destroy your reputation. They can also go on social media, which I think is a very big mistake on their part, especially if you're in any kind of um, a legal situation like a custody matter or divorce matter. Even if you are a, you know, the abuser will go on social media using this mirror campaign on their victim. And however, and I'm gonna go say this too: if you're a victim, please don't go on social media. Neither trying to put out all your information on social media about your situation unless the situation's over, and the divorce is final or whatever, the relationship's final, the custody matter's final. Then you can do that. But if you're still going through a custody or a divorce situation, I will not put any information about my your divorce or your custody battle on any social media platform, because it can be held against you in court. And so I just would recommend that. But the abuser will and they will go to their place of worship or your place of worship and tell your pastor, use the smear campaign, go tell your pastor, well, did you know they were a drug addict and stuff like that, knowing that's not true. They don't have any evidence, like they don't have video recordings, they don't have any picture showing you're a drug addict, or they'll say you're an alcoholic, more false allegations. And they'll continue to do this, to get you to just to try to ruin your reputation. And you're the victim here, you're not the abuser. There again, the abuser is not taking any responsibility for their actions. So they always try to make the victim, the abuser will always try to make the victim look crazy. And I will say that they will always say you're mental, you're mentally not stable, and things like that. The abuser always wants to make the victim feel bad and look bad. That's the abuser's big campaign. Even though it's false allegations, that's their thing. They want to mentally and physically get you down to a point where you are not able to you're not able to like make any rational sense, or make you look like you're the one that's got a rage problem, like they'll say something into it trying to get you to respond to it. Well, that's all the time I have for the first podcast. On my next podcast, I'm going to be talking more about boundaries, setting boundaries with abusers, and all that, and setting boundaries, and I'll go in more of physical and mental abuse. And the podcast after the second podcast, the third podcast, I will begin to have live chat questions. So if you would like to call in and ask me any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. And thank you all for joining my podcast today. Follow me, and I hope you all have a blessed day.